Okay, thank you, Mick, for doing the presentation today, and please take it away.
Terrific. Thank you, Gary. Hi, everybody. Today, as Gary alluded to, really we want to take you through an update of some exciting Blue Dot product innovation. I know many of you from the attendee list, we've either talked to in the past, or some of you may be new, so I'm going to try to do a little bit of a broad overview, but also get into the specifics here and primarily focus on a product demonstration. So as a quick introduction, for those of you who aren't familiar with Blue Dot, we are exclusively focused in enterprise mobility. We've been doing this now for 20+ years, over 1,100 customers, 10 countries, over 105,000 licenses deployed. And most notably, we have been an Infor Distribution partner for a number of years. We have 30+ customers today using our solutions, and we've been a partner since 1999, primarily in the SX.e environment, although we do have a group of A+ customers as well. And just to note, we're not only an Infor Distribution partner, but we have an awful lot of implementations within the Infor EAM sector, as well as the Infor public sector user community. We're going to primarily talk about some very specific mobile applications today, primarily a pickup and delivery solution in the DVIR application, but we will touch a little bit on what we call our Cyan mobile platform, because it really is the foundation for delivering these products, and there are a lot of benefits in the platform and infrastructure itself. But it is the platform for which Blue Dot delivers all of its solutions on, and I'll touch on that here a little bit more in just a minute. The first application that we're going to get into today is what we call pickup and delivery. And for those of you who have seen us demonstrate what we call Cyan proof of delivery, this is really just an evolution of that. Our proof of delivery product has been out for a number of years. We had a number of customers back on a Windows mobile-based solution. Here over the last 3-4 years, we had a new iteration of that brought more modern OSs for Android and iOS. And this is our next iteration of that really is maturing a lot of the features and capabilities that we've provided in the past. Essentially, it allows users to eliminate all of the paperwork associated with not just deliveries, but also pickups as well. It enables you to improve your customer communication by understanding timing of when you're going to be there for deliveries and pickups. Huge ROI associated with eliminating that paperwork, avoiding that rekeying in that paperwork back into Infor Distribution ERP products, the accuracy that's associated with capturing the data electronically, just a host of, I think all of our customers who've adopted the solution, really would report to you that the software is well paying for itself. There's just tremendous ROI associated with eliminating that paperwork. The next application we're going to show you here today is somewhat of a newer product that is DVIR, driver vehicle inspection reports. I'm guessing that most of you, are doing some type of vehicle inspections, either once a day or more likely twice a day at the beginning and end of the day. And everybody we've found is using paper for this process. You're filling out a standard inspection form, turning it back in, storing it in a file somewhere, and it's cumbersome. Blue Dot has launched a mobile application for DVIR that really, not only eliminates that paperwork and improves efficiencies and the time to do it, but really helps the safety aspects of things, helps you from violations, because we're able to electronically store the past 7 days on the device, so that if a driver ever is pulled over, he's got that information, opposed to relying on him having a folder there where he's got the previous 7-day inspections. And we're doing some other things in the application to help enforce compliance. So, we'll really show you that as we get into the demo here, but it's a very, very easy add-on to the pickup and delivery solution. You can run it on its own. You don't need to have POD, but for those customers who are already using that, it's just a very, very simple add-on, and it again, because it's through our platform, there's a lot of shared commonality amongst the two applications. So last slide here before we jump into a demo, and talked about our Cyan mobile platform, and the thing that I guess we want to stress to you here today, there are a lot of competing mobile products out there and a lot to sift through on the market, and one of the things we believe we bring on top of some very, very good packaged applications for you to use is because we're delivering this on our Cyan mobile platform, all of the applications that we provide are very optimized for both online and offline connectivity. A lot of products today, you've got to be connected to the internet to work, and we're architected such that we can take advantage of connectivity via cellular or Wi-Fi or whatever it is we have, but when you're disconnected, right, when you're down in the basement or you're out of range, you have the full access for that application to work as you would expect. And then when you come back into range, everything will sync up on its own without the driver having to initiate anything. We do have the ability, because of this platform, to customize the applications too. I mean, if you have some specific needs, unique requirements, it's part of our business model to do that and be able to extend custom features if you need it. Last thing is, the platform helps us deliver a single product and be able to run on a wide variety of devices. We run on Android, smartphones, tablets, phablets, rugged devices. We run on iOS-based devices, again, phones, tablets, iPads, and it's one code base, right? We're not managing separate applications, and I think you'll find sometimes with other vendors, they've got these point solutions, and as you're trying to protect your investment going forward, all of a sudden new devices come out and you don't have support for those. So we're very, very proud of being able to give you investment protection, give you a lot of technology benefits that help you leverage the latest, greatest devices. And lastly, all of these components are all managed in the cloud. So it's a 100% subscription product. You do not need any server whatsoever to run any of the applications that I'm going to show you here today. I lied. This is the last slide. Just a little bit about devices, because I know everybody, that's always a big part of it, right? What in the past we often required a pretty expensive type of handheld. Today, you really can choose between a $100, $200 smartphone, all the way up to an enterprise, fully rugged device with a scanner, that might be $1,000 or $1,500, but it has the things you're looking for. So again, phones, tablets, in-between devices, Android and iOS, all supported. You can mix and match, and scanning or no scanning, a wide variety of choices for you. So I hope that provided for just a good introduction to the solution here today. And what I wanted to do, I'm going to do my best to attempt to show you lots of different things here today. I mean, not only two different applications, but I'm going to bounce around between the mobile application itself, as well as showing you some cloud components and talk a little bit about the data that's flowing between your ERP systems. The first thing I'm going to demonstrate today is our Cyan pickup and delivery product, and there's a couple of ways. I mean, we have some packaged integration with SX.e and A+, but with this new product, we've also got some extended capabilities. I mean, to get data into the system, we now have an Excel import capability that's there, as well as we're looking at additional opportunities to do more real-time integration and integration through things like Ion. But this just shows you a little bit of a representative bit of the data. I've got this in Excel format, but I've got a trip, that I've called today Tug Webinar Test Trip. That trip has some stops. In this case, it's I've got one stop that's a pickup one that's a mixture of both pickups and deliveries, and then I've got one that we're calling a fuel stop. Those stops have orders. Again, all data we would expect to be getting from SX.e, but I just kind of want to talk about it in context here so you can see it. But here I've got a list of orders that are associated to those stops, and then those orders can optionally have items. Not every one of our customers necessarily want to go down to the item level, right? You may be fine with saying, oh, I just want to verify that these orders were delivered, and so you don't have to have items if they're not relevant to you. But if you do want to confirm items, and when I say items, I'm really referring to lines and or packages. You can, right? You can see that on the mobile device. You can even scan to confirm those lines and do some pretty powerful things in the workflow. So I wanted you to just see that like basic data. And one of the things, guys, that we're doing in our product, bear with me 1 minute. I think I lost this page. 1 second here, guys. Let me just log back into our portal. But I just wanted to show you, in our portal, once because this is a big part of the solution, right? I mean, there's the mobile applications, but our mobile applications talk to our cloud, and then our cloud is the interface between your distribution ERP. So we've got various capabilities here. I mean, just talking about the pickup and delivery solution, we have the ability to see those stops or trips that you've brought in from your ERP, right? If I look at our assignment page here, what this is going to show us is those things that have come in, and I have the ability to potentially reassign these things. You can see I've got something set up for CPAD Mick. This is the trip that I'm going to be demoing here today. But if I wanted to use our portal to potentially reassign that to another driver, I could. So this is kind of what we call our assignment view. We also have the ability in our portal to do like a data upload. So if you wanted to bring some data into the system via Excel, you could do that. And then one of the things I'm going to refer back to quite a bit in the discussions today is in this latest iteration. I mean, one of the things we've really tried to do is to have an awful lot of configurability in the product so that we just can meet the needs of a wide array of customers. In the past, we had a version of the solution that was really just for Infor POD, and although that was good, I think it hurt us because Blue Dot's delivering pickup and delivery solutions for all sorts of customers on the market outside of just the Infor community, and we didn't necessarily have a way to bring all those great features and things that were happening from that community into the product for you. But now we do. I mean, in this aspect, and I'm just going to skim this because I don't have the time today to show you all the abilities, but you can configure throughout the product what we call things. Are they trips? Are they stops? Are they pickups? Are they deliveries? Some people want to call them loads and unloads, right? You get to determine what all the labels in the system are and what your drivers see. You get to set up the different lists that we have in the application, the different drop downs for, what are my different statuses, what are my different things when I go to get a signature. I'm going to show you some document features, all these. Whenever we have drop down lists in the system, you can control that. Same thing with OS&D. We've got a whole bunch of configurability here on, well, what happens when I say that a product is damaged on delivery? Do I want to require photos? Do I want to require comments? A whole bunch of configurability there that is really nice to set up. And then lastly, there's just a ton of workflow configuration. Do I want to require a password or not in the app? Do I want to have barcode scanning, and so forth and so on, right? So a long list here. I'm just showing you all the different things. And again, I'll refer to some of this as we go through the demo today. But that's a really big improvement that we've made here over the past, over the past year in the product. So let's switch now to the mobile application itself, right? I've given you some of this overview of some of the back-end functionality, but what I've done here, I've logged into my device, and as the user, and you saw that the trip that I had set up for us, this tug webinar test trip. You don't have to actually use the concept of trips. Again, that's a feature. If you don't want to do that, you can just see stops directly in my inbox. But some people want to have an ID for a collection of stops. Call it a trip, call it maybe it's a route. But again, you can turn that on or off. If I chose not to do that, I would just see stops directly in my list. So what we're seeing here is we had one trip on my device, and that trip is made up of really 3 stops. Again, those terminology could be whatever you set them up to be. But in this case, I've got a stop that, notice we've got a little badge here for, P standing for pickup, PND standing for a pickup and delivery stop. If it was a delivery only, it would be a D. And then I've got this concept of if you want to set up things like fuel stops or brakes, you can. So let's go through this, right? I've got some preview information here that's helpful for the driver. All of the screens that I'm going to show you today, again, one of the features of the platform, if I rotate this thing in the landscape mode, everything sizes accordingly, and if I was on a tablet display, it would take advantage of that real estate. But the primary thing as a driver, I'm going to open up this first stop. Again, this is a pickup, so I present the driver with a workflow that we go through. The first part of that workflow is kind of a read-only view of the stop. Make sure I'm at the right address. If you've sent us contact information out of a SX or A plus or whatever your ERP backend is, we can also kick off like the phone dialer or email that contact, and it's pretty nice, right? If I hit the phone dialer, it's going to auto launch my phone and pre-populate the number in there, and all those things that you would expect on a modern device. But read only, and I also note that navigation button. So if I wanted to navigate to this, I click that button, it's going to launch Google Maps or whatever my map default application is set to. If I'm using something else that's a more commercial mapping application, well, then it would use that. But now I could hit, navigate, it would give me turn-by-turn voice directions to that location. I hit the back button here, and it's going to take me right back to the workflow. If I go, again, read-only screen here, but if I go ahead and hit next, one of the nice things we're doing in this current product is, and you can choose to turn this on or off, but we have the ability to capture both arrival and departure information. So when I hit confirm here, what we're really doing is we're grabbing the GPS coordinates of that device along with a date timestamp, sending it up to our portal, so we now have proof of where that driver was and when they arrived. We now present the driver with whatever orders were sent to us as part of this stop. In this case, I've got 3 orders. If I had set up my configuration to use barcode scanning on orders for pickups, I would have a little scan window here, and I could go ahead and scan my orders to confirm them. But I've kind of chosen for this demo to turn that off. I'm going to show you that capability elsewhere. But you can see here, right, we've got some base information about the order. If I expand this blue icon, I can show a lot more information about the order. But we don't show it by default. Again, you just got to expand that out, and you can see whatever information was passed to us from the ERP. Got a bunch of things. If I want to capture notes on the order, I come in here. I could add a new note. I could just enter text. I could speak text. Sample notes for today's demo. Pretty cool, right? Use all the capabilities that we're familiar with our smart devices. So enter it, speak it. I could add a new note if I want. I could more than one note, but I'll back up here, and you'll see throughout the application, whenever I enter something, I give this little badge indicator. If I had 2 notes, you'd see a 2. Same thing with photos. Let's go ahead and capture a photo. So we can capture these notes, photos, or documents in various places in the workflow. You can do it on the order. If you were set up for items, you could do it on the items. You could do it in the deliveries, various spots in the workflow. We go ahead and take one photo here. I'm in the conference room, so out our window in Denver, it's a little tough to see, but see I've captured a photo. I hit OK, and now in a similar way, right? We could delete that photo, but I'll back up here and we'll have an indicator there for a photo. So lastly, note that on this one, I don't have any items that were set, but if I went into items, I could add some specific items to this pickup if I wanted to, right? I could scan them, it would add them, or if I had pre-scheduled some items, I'd see that, right? I would have saw that I have, I'm expecting, one of one items. But for the purpose of this and getting through this demo, I'm going to go ahead and tap that all three of these are complete. Go ahead and hit next. We now present the driver with what we call our review summary. This is where you're interacting with your customer. They can see all the information that we just captured. So if I expand it on this first order, we can see that we captured a note and a photo, but everything's in read-only form, right? I can't change it. If I go into the notes, it's all there. So my customer could look at it, but it's in read-only form. Here's where I could get my signature. Note, again, you determine what these options are. Picked up a signature, picked up no signature, could be anything that whatever your options are today. But I'm going to go ahead and sign this. In all of our workflow, we've got, the ability to sign. So if not only on a pickup, but on a delivery, I go ahead and sign. And, now I can proceed, hit done. It'll go ahead and submit these orders. Takes us right to a departure confirmation. I hit confirm. Again, capturing the GPS coordinates, and now notice on this trip, I've completed one of three stops. So that's been sent up to our portal. Great. Administration can see that. We know where that driver is. We're providing better customer service. Let me walk you through this next one because this has got more of delivery flow. So this one's got, 8 orders associated with it. We get that preview information. Again, I go into that, got that same read-only information. I hit next, going to confirm my arrival, and now I'm presented again with 0 of 8. On the delivery side of things, a very similar workflow. I mean, notice that we're kind of delineating for the driver. These are all deliveries. They've got that little badge of D. If I go down here a little further, though, we have one pickup. Note on some of these I didn't have any items, but on this one I did, right? There were 3 items that I was asked to get, and I've got scanning turned on at the item level. Again, this could be lines or packages if you want to call it that. But here's where I could come in. If I've got a barcode scanner, I go ahead and scan it, boom, it finds it in the list and checks it off. Next one, 11112, finds it in the list. Oop, I mistyped it. Great way to confirm, the validation, right? I miskeyed it, didn't allow me to do that. I do have some options here, though. Maybe I scanned the right thing, but it wasn't in the list. Do I want to add a new item? Maybe I do, right? If I hit yes, it'll allow me to do that. So, just some of the capabilities to confirm items. You notice when I hit the third one now, everything goes green, saying I got all 3 of 3. Hit next, and now that item in the list is checked off for us. That order is complete. Could capture any notes, photos, or documents. I did want to show you the document feature, but I'm going to show that here at the end. Note on, maybe on one of these, let's just show that maybe on this one it was damaged. It puts a little red X there. This is where we can come in here and specify it was damaged, require any comments. whatever your damage conditions are that you set up in the portal, you'd see here, right? So maybe it was the packaging that was damaged. I go ahead and hit save. I tried to hit save, but we set it up to where a photo was required. So I got to go in and, do a photo. So pretty cool, stuff, right, that we can enforce that you're capturing, that type of workflow in the application. Note here too, maybe this was just I've only completed 2 of 8. And if I go ahead and do that, I hit next, it's telling me, hey, you haven't completed them all. Are you sure you want to continue? Yes, I do. I've got the opportunity now to just complete those orders. This time I'm not going to sign for it. I'm going to say it was left on dock, hit done. It's going to take me to my departure confirmation. But I could go back and complete the rest of those orders as well. So if I go hit back, notice now I've only got 0 of 7. I can complete the rest of them. I think it's going to require me though on this one with it's going to issue there, but I can complete all those items, finish that stop, and close out the workflow, right? I could go back and depart if I wanted to, come back to those later, but complete that pickup and delivery. And I wanted you to also see very quickly on a fuel stop. This is something that's new. If you want to be able to send down to the driver these types of, they're not pickups, they're not deliveries, maybe it's a planned break, you could do that. And all we're really doing on this kind of a stop is capturing both arrival and departure. So in this case, I went in, I hit, arrive, and now notice I've now got that little depart flag because that's all that's left. So I could come in here and if I go into it again, the only thing I can do is depart. I go ahead and hit confirm, and that's now removed from my list, right? I've completed 2 of 3. So you get a little sense of the workflow there. One last thing I wanted to show you is just there were various points in that workflow where I also could have recorded a document. This is an exciting new feature that we've added into the solution. We've also got the ability to just do it outside of a pickup or delivery. So, notice there's a feature here, and there's some other things too, and then I just, time a lot I can't get to, but we've added the optional capability for a driver to add a stop. Sometimes if there's an emergency happened, you want to do something, but you couldn't schedule it in SX or A+. If you've turned that feature on, the driver can add a stop. We have the ability to show completed work that was done. But I wanted to show you this document capability. What this really is, guys, is just the ability to really just kind of scan any kind of document that you may, any kind of paperwork that you're capturing today that you want to eliminate, the driver having to come back to the office to turn in or fax in. So I come in, I hit add. Here's where, again, you configure what are all the different types of documents that you may get today. Packing slips, bill of lading, accident reports, timesheets, a lot of things that I'm guessing if you think about that you could automate, or we're not saying you're automating it, but you're capturing it electronically. So in this case, maybe it's a packing slip, and I've got a document number 2251. This was a quote that I got the other day for some plumbing and for some new air conditioner. So if there's any plumbing and heating distributors in the room, you'll appreciate this. It's basically a quote. But I go ahead and use my camera. Oh, and bear with me there. I had a little real quick issue. But what that does for me is it allows me to takes a picture of that document, and not just like a normal camera photo, it actually goes through and optimizes that image, right? It puts it in black and white. It goes through and de-skews it, gets rid of the border, and most importantly, it shrinks that shrinks it down to, instead of being 10 meg or something like that, it's 45K. And when you send that back to the server, it not only gets it back quickly, but you've got it in an extremely legible format that can be incorporated into your document imaging system or wherever it is that you might want that to go. So I'll show you that here in just a second. Sorry, I had a little demo logistics there, but let me do this once more. And you know, you've got, I'll show you that on the portal once we've sent that back. But a really nice feature that again you can do within the workflow, but you also can do, you know, just as a standalone feature, you know, within the application. So I'll put that back on the screen here. Processes that image, again, applies all that logic that I just referenced, and you know, here you can get a little feel for, you know, what that looks like. I mean, at first view, it might not look, you know, great, but when I zoom in on that, we've got tremendous quality to get back to our portal and be able to use those. So it's just much clearer than an actual photo of an image. And the last part of this, guys, I mean, obviously you do all this work on your mobile device, all that's stored offline, and then when you come back to the portal, we've got some capability here for what we call our you know, pickup and delivery summary. This is where all the data comes back to, right? And again, and the driver never really needs to, you know, hit sync. They, you know, all this stuff's going to sync in the background and queue up. But, you know, you can see right here, some of the things that we captured here during the demo. We did this first, we had two different things that we did. We did the first one, which was a pickup. Here was our signature, right? I could download that image, but again, we've got processes to get that back into SX. The signature has, you know, not just the signature watermark, but the name, the date, time, and the order number associated with it. Here was, we want to drill into the individual orders that we picked up. Here was our photo. So all the information's there, and you can use our portal to review that data, but of course we are going to pass that on to your ERP where applicable. I did want to show you on the document side of things, if I come in here and look at that, right, so these kind of go to a separate page if you took a document sort of outside of the you know, the flow, right? If I, and here's the one, I actually took this one a little bit earlier, but you know, you can see, right, if I zoom in on that document, I mean, how nice is that? I mean, that is extremely high resolution. You know, you now just can just eliminate that whole, you know, flow of a driver coming back and having to turn that paperwork in. So that's a packing in a lot there in a short amount of time on pickup and delivery, probably skimming over a lot of features and functions, but hopefully that gives you a little bit of a feel of the configurability, the workflow, and how some of the portal side components work. The second thing that I wanted to show you here is our DVIR application. And you know, this product, guys, is something that's very, you know, straightforward, easy to add. It doesn't have, you know, it doesn't have any back-end integration that's required. So it's standalone, right? You really can deploy it in hours, and it basically is a very straightforward workflow to eliminate that whole vehicle inspection process. So, you know, typically you'd have two icons on your home page here. You'd have a POD icon and you'd have a DVIR icon, and you know, within that, a lot of similarity, right? Looks the same. It's got an inbox, an outbox. The flow of the application is very first thing I need to do is set my vehicle. What vehicle am I in today? We've got, just like we looked at in the you know, in the proof of delivery side of things, we've got pages that are specific for DVIR. So one of the things I can do is I can come in here when I'm first setting up my solution. I set up what all the vehicles are in our organization. You know, each one has an ID. You can support different types of vehicles. So maybe it's a flatbed, maybe it's a box truck, and you can have different inspection flows for the different types of vehicles that you have. But in this case, I've got a handful of vehicles. I see those as a driver. I could search for it, but if I go ahead and pick this first one in the list, again, we're getting rid of all the driver having to have any paperwork whatsoever for vehicle inspections. What I'm seeing now is here's my 7-day history of inspections. And that's required by FMCSA to be compliant, that you've got a 7-day history of inspections. So now we've got that electronically. If you ever are pulled over, the driver can show that to an officer and review these at any point in time. So, drivers, before you do today's inspection, the process should always be that I want to review yesterday's inspection first. So in this case, here was yesterday on 10/14. I did an inspection. If it was done by a different driver, there were no defects reported. I can see that here was the mileage and here's the driver that signed for it. So again, I could review other inspections that have some more pertinent information. Here was one that was done a couple of days ago. There was an issue with the air compressor. We had some notes. There was an issue with the battery. We took a photo. You can see we've got just test data in here, but I can tell you from the people that are using this, it's pretty powerful. Looking at photos that they took of something that's corroded, and just being able to get that information potentially to maintenance ahead of time so that they can order parts or just know about the issue before that truck arrives. The primary flow here, though, is for a driver to do the inspection. So, I hit this plus key in the upper right. It does ask me the question, hey, have you validated yesterday's inspection? We track that. I'll show you that in a minute. But I go ahead and hit yes here, and then you're presented with a list of inspection points. We've got some standard templates that are, again, FMCSA 906.11 compliant, but you can configure these whatever you want them to be. It's not customization, it's a configuration. You can have different inspection points for different types of vehicles, like I mentioned earlier. So in this case, you configure the groups, and then you configure the points. So we've got four groups here: air brake, engine, tractor, and trailer. But the flow is you go ahead and just, anything that's a problem, you note. I got an issue with my brakes. I tap that. I could record some notes or photos. Again, I could speak them in, I could type them in. Some of the points you can require whether it's a note or a photo is required or not. So you'll notice if I hit a defect on airlines, sorry, not on airlines, on air compressor, it forces me directly to put in a note because I've basically specified that I need to have notes for that if I record a defect on that. Let's just take one more picture here, because I think a picture, especially in the case of inspection, is a pretty powerful thing, again, to pass that information on to maintenance. So we'll go ahead and take a photo. Gosh, sorry guys, one more issue here on the demo side of things today. Moving fast and furious. I apologize, I'm kind of showing you some newer stuff, so bear with me 1 minute. That is basically the end of the process, and these inspections, when they're completed, let me just show you this form here while I'm getting my device back up, but they all come back into our DVIR inspection summary view where, just like in pickup and delivery, here is the inspection, and, I can note, if there were, you can just see everything about the inspection. If there were no defects or notes or photos recorded, I see that. But in this case, if there are, I can click on any of those and drill into it, right? So in this case, I recorded some data about the air brake system. I took a photo. Here it is. Here's the signature that I captured as part of that. So all the data that would be associated with that inspection, you're seeing here on the portal. No different than POD, and of course the same portal, right? So it's if you're using both applications, there's just some nice, synergies there to come to one common place to see that data. Here I did want to show you that kind of back on the mobile side of things, that, you know, once I've recorded an issue, you know, when I'm there, the closeout process there, so I've captured those defects. My next step when I hit none then, or when I hit next, sorry, is it gives me a summary of what I collected, right? Did I have any defects, any photos, any notes? And then I can specify what was my mileage. I need to notice the signature capture is you know, grayed out here. I need to specify, can I operate this vehicle safely, or, you know, or not, right? If it needs to be corrected prior to use. But let's go ahead and say yes. You know, I go ahead and get a signature. Again, that signature looks absolutely identical to you know, pickup and delivery. So the driver doesn't have to, they're not presented with something different. And I go ahead and hit done here. And now I see my inspection in my list, right? It's today, 9:43. There's my previous inspections too. So, and of course that's synchronized back to our portal. You'll notice in this case, there's nothing in our out box. It's here in our sent box as being delivered. So, you know, back here in our portal now, if I go look at that one and did a refresh, you know, we'll see that that one actually comes through here as well. So a neat, again, I want to stress with the DVIR solution, it's really, really straightforward to set up. Ours, no integration that's required. You certainly, we've got some people that are looking to interface this with their maintenance system. Any of the documents that you capture, if you want to get that into a document management system, you know, of course there's the opportunity to do that, but you know, very, very straightforward to set up. And then there's some cost benefit too. We've tried to make it attractive for folks. If you're using POD or pickup and delivery already, you add this on. Obviously, we've got the infrastructure and pieces already there. So you know, we try to extend some of the discounts on to folks that are going to use multiple applications from us. But that shows you kind of the end-to-end workflow on the DVIR side of things as well. So I know again here today I have shown lots of stuff in a short amount of time, not without a couple of hiccups too. But you know, I think it might be best to just allow for questions from you guys. I know we've got about you know, 10 to 12 minutes left here. You know, Gary, there's a few things I might point out if there's not a lot of questions, but why don't we, you know, pause for a minute and see if you know, anybody has some questions.
Okay. Yeah, there's no questions right now, but we'll give it a minute or so. I do notice that Maureen, you had your hand raised, so I'll go ahead and unmute you if you still have a question. I think you raised it towards the beginning of the meeting.
Well, if you have pricing, well, you know what I would ship.
I don't think she has a question. I think she was talking to somebody else. So, yeah, let's give it a couple seconds, see if any questions pop up, and then and we'll see where we go.
Great.
And I don't know if you put your contact information up, Mick, but sometimes that helps.
We'll definitely make that available here as a follow-on. Yeah, I don't have it kind of up in front of us, but you know, one thing too is while people are thinking about questions, that I just wanted to make sure there wasn't anything burning there to take a pause. But all of the information on the DVIR solution, we by default keep into our portal for 90 days, which is you know, what's required. You can keep it longer if we need to, but we store it there for 90 days, and then we got a process that cleans it up or gets rid of it, you know, after that point in time. But again, it doesn't have to go anywhere. It stays in our cloud, and if ever you're audited or you need to check on something specifically, you can come back to this portal. Really easy to search by, you know, a specific driver, right? In this case, I'm, you know, here's the different inspections that I've done, and you know, find that stuff, right? So, and here's also where, guys, you know, I think is interesting. You know, are not only tracking who did the inspection, but you're tracking who validated it. So I'm guessing in many cases, right, you have different drivers and different vehicles every day. So it could be, in this case, we just did this inspection today for the demo, right? It was completed by me, Mick Milnark. But tomorrow, if Joe Phillips comes in to do it, he's going to validate the previous day's inspection, and we're going to stamp that inspection that it was validated by Joe. So it gives you some good tracking and capability. Again, the primary component here being just eliminate that paper, be more compliant if indeed you are asked to prove inspection information. You've got it. You're not digging through boxes, and you're giving that information to your drivers at any point in time if they're stopped. You know that they've got it. So.
Okay, we had a couple questions come in. The first one is, does pickup and delivery work with Infor's SX.e and TWL?
Good question. I mean, we've got a lot of our customers to date that are using the solution in combination with TWL. So there are some subtleties and nuances with that, as I'm sure you guys probably know, but I would say, you know, somewhere between 40 and 50% of the customers that are out there using POD today, you know, are TWL customers.
So it's integrated with TWL then?
Yeah, I mean, we're basically not doing any direct integration with TWL, but you know, we are, you know, when you do the the export capabilities out of SX to get data into the system, you know, there are some things you're doing there that are, you know, getting that information back from TWL. So, you know, we do have, again, a lot of customers that are using it that way, and I think could give you some good reference people to talk to as to the specifics of how they're doing it with TWL.
Okay. All right. What is the full name for DVIR?
Driver Vehicle Inspection Reports.
Okay. And are there any A+ customers using pickup and delivery?
I believe we have 2 to date. So, you know, we've got a lot more on the side of SX.e, no question about it. But we do have you know, a couple. We'd love to have more. You know, I don't think from our perspective there's really any reason why that it's less, you know, other than it just hasn't happened. The integration essentially is the same type of interface that's been built into A+. It's really identical to SX. So there's really nothing that should get in the way from being able to do that.
Okay. Is there a routing function?
Good question. We do not have in our application today, you know, any capability to route within our solution suite, right? It is something that we've talked about. I think, you know, can say is on our roadmap. We'd like to find a way to offer that within our suite. So it isn't baked into our product per se, but we definitely have the ability to, however the data is sent to us, you know, we honor. So, you know, if you set up, you know, one of the functions in SX is it's by no means a routing system, but, you know, some people are, you know, they've built their orders in a way where they have cognizantly went through and said, this is the sequence that I want those to work. And if you've sent it to us in that way, then we honor that sequence, right? We do have the concept in our system of a sequence, and it's presented to the driver that way. And likewise, if you have any third party for routing, you know, I know there's a host of them out there. There's, you know, absolutely no reason why we can't, you know, get that data if it's been already routed. We've got an API set around our portal, that just a set of web services that, you know, either Blue Dot can do integration, you as a customer can do integration, or a third party can do integration to say, oh, well, instead of actually populating our cloud from an SX or an A+, we're going to populate it from our routing software. The full capability would be there to do that, and the system would work 100% the same, right? we'd probably send it back to SX because I'm guessing you don't care about it going to a third-party routing product, but to get routed data into the system, you would always have that option. So I hope that answers the question.
Okay, I think it did. And that's the last question that was posted. So I don't know if you have any closing comments, but on behalf of Tug, Mick, we'd like to thank you for presenting the webinar, and it was good information.
Yeah, thanks. No, Gary, I mean, just extend our thanks. The only other thing I'd like to close with is just, to say thanks for everybody for attending. And I just will say, I mean, I think that, the users that we've got in the system today have been real happy. They've been referenceable. They've, I think, had a good experience. A lot of them are adding additional applications, and, we're of course hoping to add more and extend the Tug community with more users. I think the more people we can get in, the better we can make the solution for everybody. But all these things, I know bells and whistles, right? Everybody's like, everybody can show you shiny stuff, but it comes down to, does it really work? And have we had a good experience with it? And I just feel confident that we do, right? We've had users really promote the system and be happy with it. So we hope. Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. I was just waiting for you to finish up. I was going to say, on the handout section of the console, you have a good blog write-up that came out from a very large SX.e customer up in Canada with about 230, 40, 50 locations, and then we'll get out 2 really sort of formal product brochures to the group, so they could look at some of the depths of the features in writing. So we'll get something out to you later today that talks about the depth of functionality and features in both of these solutions, so you'll have something to look at moving forward.
That's a good point. Yeah, that document is out there on your control panel. You can just click to download it.
Yeah, and Gary, I'll send you on the 2 brochures, as well. We can send that to the group together. So yeah.
Good.
Okay.
Okay. Well, thank you guys again, and that concludes the webinar for today. So everybody have a great day.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.